I once did a conference called International Muslim Leaders Conference on HIV/AIDS. It was all going pretty well, and then some people decided to cause trouble, and it really got nasty. There were people crying, there were people shouting, and I was the chair of the whole conference, so I had to manage it all. It was the most terrible 5 days of my life, and every day I was miserable and praying that things would go better. When things get really bad, something happens to change things around. Even if it's very small, it just changes the outlook on everything.
Welcome to I Share Hope, the podcast where world leaders share their real stories of hope and how you can use actionable hope to start changing your life today. And now, here's your host, Chris Williams.
Hi there. It's great to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time.
No problem. Hang on, I'll just put on a headphone.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Headphones do help.
Yeah.
They help that echo go away. So tell me first, to make sure I get your name pronounced right, because I'm horrible at this. How do you want me to address you so that I get it just right?
Marina. Marina's fine.
All right, Marina's fine. Great. And last name, to make sure I pronounce that right as well, is it Mahathir or
Mahathir.
Mahathir? I'm sorry, it cut out just a little.
Mahathir.
Mahathir. Great. Marina Mahathir. Excellent. I'll thank you first of all for your time. I really
You're
can't.
breaking up. You're breaking up. Mahathir.
Okay, let me
Hello? Yes.
You there? How about
Yeah, that's
this?
fine.
Okay. Is it still breaking up on your end?
No. Now I can hear you clearly.
Okay. If it starts breaking up, we can cut the video out, but usually the combination helps the audio quality usually, but we'll see how it works today.
Okay.
Thank you. So tell me, Marina, where are you right now? Are you home or are you traveling?
I'm home in Kuala Lumpur.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Good. For some reason, we thought you were in Europe this week, and I thought, wow, I wonder where she's at.
No, I'm leaving on Saturday for London.
Oh, good for you. What fun. Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your time this morning. So you have been an activist in women's rights, in the Muslim community in particular, and also the gay and lesbian community as well. And I've read a lot about your work, and I'm impressed. I'm impressed because of not just your work in that area, but you're coming at it from a place in the world and a time in the world when it seems like it'd be fairly tough to do that and bring hope and a positive light to those conversations at the same time, just because of socioeconomic, political pressures, all the things that wrap up and make our world the good and bad that it is. So
Yeah.
tell me a little more about
Well,
you, and then I'm going to jump into the questions. Yeah.
okay. I'm basically a writer. I have a newspaper column that I've been writing for more than 20 years. But at the same time, I also work in NGOs. I used to run an HIV NGO for 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then I left that about 10 years ago. And then did my own thing for about 5 years. And then I joined an organization called Sisters in Islam, which works for justice and equality for Muslim women.
Wow.
And I'm on the board of that organization right now.
Incredible. Yeah, you're very well known for your work in HIV, and you're obviously well known in your work for women's rights as well. I'm impressed. You're a busy person. I don't know how you get it all done. And
Although
writing.
busy, yeah, I don't know either.
And you're still writing, correct?
Yes, every 2 weeks in the newspaper.
Incredible. Wow. Great. Well, thank you for your time. I know you have a lot on your plate already. So let me ask you these questions. They work the same way for each guest. We ask the 5 questions about hope. And the first is, what is your definition or your favorite quote about hope?
Oh, I don't have a quote, I think. I think my definition of hope is really when things get really bad and then something happens to change things around, even if it's very small, it just changes the outlook on everything. Um, I don't know whether that's clear enough, but it happens all the time here in Malaysia. When things seem really bad, then something happens. Um, for instance, when I was in HIV, we worked for a long time to try and introduce harm reduction, needle exchange programs, and all that. And it just seemed impossible because everybody was against it because we have a drug problem, and the approach towards the drug problem has always been very punitive, etc. So the idea of giving out clean needles was just impossible. But we slogged away, and then one day I got a phone call from the Minister of Health and said, Marina, we're going to have needle exchange programs.
Wow.
And just like that. And suddenly, whoa, it worked,
All that work, no kidding.
And it was great. And when one thing good happens, it gives you hope about other things good happen, So I try never to get too depressed and always try and see a little light somewhere. It's got to be there. It's got to be there somewhere.
I love it. I love it. You're so right. So tell me this then, who has shared the most hope with you? Question number 2 is, who has shared the most hope with you in your life?
Well, I look back on my 12 years working at the Malaysian AIDS Council when I was president, and I think it's always been all my colleagues, especially people with HIV. When we started out, there was literally no hope. People just died. And there was no way of imagining any other scenario. And then suddenly there was treatment. And so there was this little spark of hope. And then the next depressing thing, oh, it's so expensive, we can't possibly afford it, and all that. But we kept on working, and then suddenly in Malaysia, the government decided they would give free treatment to certain groups of people. And we worked some more, and then they decided, okay, they'll give free treatment, first line treatment at least, to all Malaysians with HIV.
Wow.
So there's always something,
Yeah.
So I try never to get too upset about any setback and all that, because I always find that it's not useful, and there's always some way of finding some way out of it. Yeah.
Is there any one person in your life who's just giving you hope, that just encourages you along and makes sure that you're always staying back up on top of things when you're falling off?
I wouldn't say there's any one person. I think I like working with young people, and I always have time for young people. If they ask me to come and talk to them, whether it's schools or universities, colleges, I always do go. And they're always the ones who give me hope.
Yeah.
Because perhaps they're still young, so they are not as battle weary or jaded like me. And it's just the spark in their eyes makes me think, okay, we can do this, we can carry on. It's all worth doing.
So
yeah,
right.
I think young Malaysians in general.
Oh, that's a good answer. That's so true. I feel the same way. So tell me this then, question number 3, when is a time in your life personally, I know you do a lot of work with people who may lose hope at times, but when's the time in your life when you've really needed to lean on hope to pull you through something?
Oh, many, many times. I once did a conference called the International Muslim Leaders Conference on HIV AIDS. And we were trying to marry the theologians with the activists. So we were trying to put them all in one room so that they didn't spend their time talking among themselves. And it was all going pretty well, and then some people decided to cause trouble, and it really got nasty. There were people crying, there were people shouting, and I was the chair of the whole conference, so I had to manage it all.
Yikes.
And it was the most terrible 5 days of my life.
Oh, no.
And every day I was miserable and praying that things would go better. But looking back, there were so many good things that actually still came out of it. We had this Minister of Health from Balochistan, which is a very conservative part of Pakistan, who at the end of the conference came to thank me for it. And I heard that when he went back to Balochistan, which is quite a remote, very poor area of Pakistan, he called in all the NGOs working in HIV and said, I want you to educate all the religious leaders on HIV/AIDS.
Wow.
I thought, oh wow, that's what we wanted to happen, right?
Yeah.
And then all the community religious leaders that we assembled in Malaysia, they found the whole conference very useful. And then we went around the country after, and it really, really helped to make them understand, because at the grassroots level, they were already facing HIV and they didn't know what to do. So, despite all the noise and the shouting and screaming by actually very few people, there were a lot of positive outcomes. So, although I still think of those 5 days as like the worst days of my life, when I sit back and look at it at the bigger picture, it was good, actually.
That's a great example. So many people think of losing hope and needing to use hope as that time when there's been a tragedy in their life or an illness or lost a loved one or something. But you're actually on the march doing something good, and you're just getting pushed back. Yeah, I know. And you're still losing hope doing something good, but it's so true. Just keeping that eye on the future and the goal. Boy, look what you've done. Wow, that's great. All right. How are you sharing hope today? That's question number 4. What are you doing today? Obviously, there's so much information about you online, and Wikipedia is very positive about what you're doing. There's lots of great things, but what are you doing personally in your daily life to share hope?
Well, in Malaysia, there's been a lot of very difficult issues, which has really divided a lot of people. And unfortunately, it's been dividing people between racial and religious lines. And of course, this is a real recipe for real conflict and possibly tragedy. So last year, some friends of I and I decided that there was some issues between some groups that was potentially going to be terrible, and it involved a church and then some really very, very conservative Muslim groups, and there was potential for possibly violence at this church on a Sunday. So some friends of mine, all Muslims, we decided we'd go and lend support to the church. So, and it was very hurried. I mean, church was on Sunday. We decided on Friday and say, okay, let's go. And then it was all a matter of logistics. How do we get there? And then somebody said, oh, let's go get some flowers and all that. So we went, and basically we handed out flowers to the parishioners. And this got into the front page of the newspaper.
Wow.
And it was something like, oh, the parishioners were expecting some very angry people to come. And instead they found these people handing out flowers, which was us. And that was really great. So since then, that group, we've kind of morphed into another group for Malaysia called Malaysians for Malaysia. And it's a very multi-ethnic, multi-religious, multicultural group. And what we do is we organize events to bring people together, just to simply be with each other and to talk. And we've done some in KL, the capital, but we've also inspired others in other cities. And it's really, I think, done a lot to make people recognize each other as human beings. And I think that's, and they get along because of that. And I think that's given a lot of Malaysians hope. that we
Wow.
will not be divided by the silly people and silly arguments. We are better than that.
Wow. Wow. That is a really simple, but honestly, a really gutsy way to do that. Because so they're Christian parishioners, I'm assuming, a Christian church,
Yes,
and
yes,
and a group of
Catholic actually,
Catholic,
yeah.
yeah, and a group of Muslims going to them to say, we respect you as humans, and let's get to know each
And
other. And you've done so much more than that since then.
yeah, well,
Wow.
Malaysians for Malaysia is a really great group. We've done things, for instance, MH370, the plane that disappeared
I know.
and is still missing.
It's incredible.
Yeah. So March 8th last year, it disappeared. And March 9th, we decided we got to do something. And what we did was we called up shopping centers and said, could you put up a wall or a space where people could write messages of hope? And we called them walls of hope. And we initiated by calling up all these shopping malls and all that. We initiated about 15, and then others took it up. So all around the country, um, people started putting up these walls, and the public just responded. And the wonderful thing is that they were writing messages to everybody on the plane and saying, please come back.
Oh,
And they didn't differentiate what nationality, what race, what religion, whatever, of the passengers and crew. And the people who were writing the messages were also from everywhere. They were writing in every language. They were drawing things. They were putting up prayers and things. And it was just utterly amazing. One shopping center, a very popular one, had 40,000 messages.
oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's just one.
Wow.
And it was just a way I think Malaysians needed a space to pour out their feelings and their prayers and their hopes for this plane. And the walls of hope provided that. So yeah.
That's really practical. And our next question deals with practical steps of how to share hope. But before you get there, I just want to point out what you just done, because a lot of people who I talk to hear these stories and they think, wow, this is an amazing person and they can share so much hope because of where they are in life. But really, it's crossing the street in our minds of the neighbor across the street may be different than me religiously or in the color of our skin or in the way we choose a certain life. But there's so much we can do that's just, how do I walk over and hand them a flower or encourage them? And you think, but I don't know what they're going through. What if I can't relate? It doesn't matter. It's just a
No, it
person.
doesn't. It doesn't matter at all. It doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
The point is to show, to do something and to show that you empathize, no matter how different. You're a human being, that's another human being. And just on that basis alone, you have something in common already.
You're so right. Okay, Marina, tell me then, how about question number 5? How can we share hope today? So I'm sitting here learning about hope and how I can share it better in my community. What should I do? Give me some really practical step A, B, and C.
Well, I think what you're doing is great. You're sharing these stories, and I think people, really want to connect with one another through good stories. Stories of human goodness, because it's so easy to get cynical about everyone and how everyone is so out to rip off people and mean and nasty. So when there's a nice story, I think we should share it. I shared a story on my Facebook page the other day about a real thing that happened to me, where I had gone to a shopping center food court and to buy something quick to eat, and I had left my iPad. And the workers there found it and called up my office because my card was in there, and to return it. So I put up this story, And then I sent someone from my office to go and fetch it, and they talked to these workers, and they turned out to be foreign workers, migrant workers in Malaysia, and they were really nice people, and they talked about their lives and all that. So I put up the follow-up story, but and then last week, because I hadn't been back there myself, I went back to that stall to say thank you myself. And I found out there was more to the story, because the original guy who called was not the one who actually found my iPad. It was, he was the supervisor, and there was a guy who worked underneath him who was the real person. And I met that guy. So then I told him, and then I told the story of this fellow. I asked him his background. He came from Bangladesh and things like that. And it was a nice little story about honesty and really good people. And I put it up, and so many people liked it. I've never had a story that was liked better. I have 50,000 likes
Oh my goodness.
on
Whoa.
that story. I mean, most things I put up, maybe, a few hundred or 1,000, 2,000, that would be already good. But this one had 50,000 likes, because it was such a nice human story about a good person. Because I offered to give this boy some money as a reward. And he said, "No, ma'am. All I want is your prayers."
Wow.
That's all he wanted. He didn't want
Wow.
anything else. He said his father had taught him that to be a good Muslim, you just have to work hard and be nice to people, be good to people, and that's it. That
Wow.
was really touching, and wow,
That's so
So
sweet.
yeah,
So special.
it is. It's really, really sweet, and you never know when you come across people like this. So it's the sort of thing that, you know, keeps you having faith in humanity.
That's a great story. I love it. Oh, wow. And that's an iPad or an iPhone or any of those devices. You think, boy, they're gone. You lose them for 5 minutes. But
Exactly.
wow, what a great
Exactly.
guy. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
he on Facebook? Has he been able to see how much good his story has done? Do you know?
I think he should have. He
I
is
would
on Facebook.
I would hope somebody would have told him by now.
Oh, I think so. I think, yeah, a lot of those likes, I think, came from Bangladesh and stuff.
That's
Yeah.
great. Excellent. So, all right, I get to ask this fun question to everybody we talk to. When you're feeling down and just need something to get you back on track, what are you going to listen to? Get your headphones in. What kind of music do you like?
Oh, gosh. I like any sort of happy music that makes me dance. So,
Yeah.
whether it's the latest pop or 70s music, I'm of the Bee Gees age. Anything that makes me dance, I
That's
like.
great.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So, give me a title or a name of an artist from the 70s. Anybody you want to pick. I'm going to put a link to their music on the show notes.
Oh, um, okay. Well, just off the top of my head, any of those sort of dancey music from the Bee Gees.
The Bee Gees. I'll get something from there. That's great. I can do that.
Okay. Does that age me too much? I don't
No, are you
know.
kidding? Not at all. I love it too.
Right.
Fantastic. And tell me then, how can we follow you if we're wanting to track down what you're doing on a daily basis and people want to see how you're progressing in life? Where do they follow you?
I have a Facebook page. It's a public page, so you can follow me on that, Marina Mahathir. And I'm on Twitter, Netra KL, NETRA KL,
Great.
KL for Kuala Lumpur. So, and that's open as well. So, yeah, do follow me.
I will.
Be
That's.
interesting to have followers from the US.
I think you'll get quite a few from this. This is this is really fun. I love seeing people around the world doing things. So, Marina, you've been just a wonderful example of hope today. I can't thank you enough for your time. And I keep looking behind you on the wall,
Ah,
and there's this awesome painting. So tell me about that.
it's actually a painting by my daughter.
Really?
My older daughter, Inessa. It was done when she was a little girl. She's now 27. But She did this, I think, when she was about 9 or 10. She went to a class, an art class by this artist. And it was a very different art class because this artist, instead of trying to teach kids to paint things as they are, he was teaching them abstract art. So they could do anything they wanted. So she wore glasses at the time. So she decided to paint her glasses and in all sorts of different shapes.
I love it.
Yeah, me too.
I totally thought it was glasses when I first saw it. And I thought,
Yeah,
that's really cool.
yeah. But all different shape frames.
Wow. All right, I'm going to try, if I can, to get a picture off of this video so I can put that in the show notes because that's really...
Okay, I'll get out of the way.
Okay. That is beautiful. Yeah, I can get that. That's fantastic. And the red bar down there on the side, is that her signature space?
Yes, that's her name.
Okay.
Ineza.
That's wonderful.
Ineza.
That's wonderful. Brilliant. I love the colors. I'm a big fan of green. I like the color green. Is she still doing art, your daughter? She's got a talent.
No, she's actually a filmmaker.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
And she makes films for various NGOs, particularly the transgender community.
Really?
Yes.
Amazing.
You can look up on YouTube. There's a campaign called I Am a Trans Ally, and she's done all the videos for that.
No way. Wow.
Yeah.
What a great talent. Good for her.
Yes.
Hey, Marina Mahathir, you have been a great example to us. You're an author, an activist for so many wonderful causes for several decades now, and currently on the board for, is it Women of...
It's called Sisters in Islam.
Sisters in Islam. Sisters in
Yeah.
Islam.
We're
That's...
very progressive. We're feminists, Muslim feminists. So
And how is that
not to
received?
get alarmed by that.
I'm not. How is that received on average around the community that you're involved in from a Muslim standpoint?
Well, it's hard going here, but I think we're better received outside the country than we are in the country, which is pretty normal. But we do have lots and lots and lots of young fans, both female and male, funnily enough, because I think what we're saying resonates a lot with young people. So we're pretty happy about that.
I'm glad. It's been a privilege to have you on our show today. Thank you so much for your time.
No worries, Chris. Enjoyed it too.
Okay, great. Have a great, wonderful evening, and I look forward to talking to you again sometime.
Okay,
All right,
thank you.
bye-bye.
Bye.
You've just listened to I Share Hope. If you're ready to make a change, head to our website at isharehope.com and claim your free copy of the top 10 actions of hope from world leaders to use hope in your own life. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
To make sure I get your name pronounced right, because I'm horrible at this, how do you want me to address you so that I get just right?
Marina's fine.
All right, Marina's fine. Great. And last name, to make sure I pronounce that right as well, is it Mahathir or
Mahathir.
Mahathir? I'm sorry, it cut out just a little.
Mahathir.
Mahathir. Great. Marina Mahathir. Excellent. Oh, thank you, first of all, for your time. I really can't.
You're breaking up. Mahathir.
Okay, let me...
Hello?
Yes. You there? How about
Yeah,
this?
that's fine.
Okay. Is it still breaking up on your end?
No, I can hear you clearly.
Okay. If it starts breaking...
I once did a conference called International Muslim Leaders Conference on HIV AIDS. It was all going pretty well, and then some people decided to cause trouble, and it really got nasty. There were people crying, there were people shouting, and I was the chair of the whole conference, so I had to manage it all. It was the most terrible 5 days of my life, and every day I was miserable and praying that things would go better. When things get really bad, something happens to change things around. Even if it's very small, it just changes the outlook on everything.
Welcome to I Share Hope, the podcast where world leaders share their real stories of hope and how you can use actionable hope to start changing your life today. And now, here's your host, Chris Williams.
Hi there. It's great to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time.
No problem. Hang on, I'll just put on a headphone.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Headphones do help.
Yeah.
They help that echo go away. So tell me first, read a lot about your work and I'm impressed. I'm impressed because of not just your work in that area, but you're coming at it from a place in the world and a time in the world when it seems like it'd be fairly tough to do that and bring hope and a positive light to those conversations at the same time. Just because of socioeconomic, political pressures, all the things that wrap up and make our world the good and bad that it is. So
Yeah.
tell me a
And
little more about
well,
you, and then I'm going to jump into the questions. Yeah.
okay. I'm basically a writer. I have a newspaper column that I've been writing for more than 20 years. But at the same time, I also work in NGO.
If we can cut the video out, but usually the combination helps the audio quality. Usually, but we'll see how it works today.
Okay.
Thank you. So tell me, Marina, where are you right now? Are you home or are you traveling?
I'm home in Kuala Lumpur.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Good. For some reason, we thought you were in Europe this week, and I thought, wow, I wonder where she's at.
No, I'm leaving on Saturday for London.
Oh, good for you. What fun. Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your time this morning. So you have been an activist in women's rights, in the Muslim community in particular, and also the gay and lesbian community as well. And